Good evening and welcome to Blue Values TV, a production of the Blue Values Coalition. The Blue Values Coalition is a nonprofit organization dedicated to informing, educating, and engaging our neighbors in the governance of our local communities. Look for us at www.bluevaluescoalition.org. Thank you for joining us today. Our guest today is Mr. Mike Holmes, City Councilman from the city of Auburn. Let me tell you a little bit about Mike Holmes. He's got a really fascinating background, 5th generation in the city of Auburn. He is a member of the Hall of Fame at Placer High School in Auburn, where he went to school. He's got a long background in military and public service in the military and in local government. You know, most of us remember November 22nd, 1963, as the date that President Kennedy was assassinated. Well, it's also the date on which Councilman Holmes received his commission and graduated from officer training in the United States Navy. After that, he went on to serve us in Vietnam and had numerous postings throughout Asia, including Vietnam, Hong Kong, Taiwan, and South Korea. After that, he continued his service with postings in Washington, D.C., and also in Southern California. After many years of service to our nation, he returned to Placer County and returned to the city of Auburn in 1999, and he was elected to the city council in 2002. Since that time, he's twice been mayor of the city of Auburn, and he continues to be on the city council today. Mr. Holmes, Councilman Holmes, welcome. Thank you for being with us today.
Thank you, Jack. It's a pleasure to be here.
Let me ask a simple question based on this wonderful background that you have. What is it that's driven you towards a life of public service and drives you today to continue in public service?
Well, I had originally planned to be a school teacher, then I got a notice from my draft board that I was going to be invited to go into the Army, one assumed, and so I immediately ran down to the Navy and applied for officer candidate school. And my, my family has been very active, as you mentioned, the 5th generation. My great-grandfather was a public official, elected public official in Placer County, Oscar Seavey, who was the county superintendent of schools for a number of years, who also was editor of the Placer Herald and was eventually elected to be county auditor, which he did before his death in 1915. So. And I have a grandfather who was elected Justice of the Peace in Auburn, and of course my brother has served on the Auburn Elementary School Board and also what was then the Placer Consolidated Fire District Board. So when I returned to Auburn, I quickly became involved in a number of appointed positions first, and was on the grand jury, for example, and was on the cemetery district board and served as president there, a number of different organizations, the Navy League, the Placer County Historical Society, and was also, I served on the, as chair of the Placer County Charter Review Committee back in 2000-2001. So it's sort of been part of our family background to do public service, and I find it very satisfying to be able to do that sort of thing because in my own little way I can help people lead a better life.
I'd say it's more than a little way, and it sounds like this has been a part of your family for a very, very long time.
Yes, it has.
What a marvelous way to grow up over here. So let's talk a little bit about getting into the meat of what's going on in Auburn. What do you see for the future of the city of Auburn? As we all know, Auburn is in fairly good financial shape right now. What are the challenges that we face in Auburn going forward?
Well, we were very fortunate that in 2003, the city council voted to put money in reserves. So we had about 50% of our general fund in reserves. So when the recession hit around 2007, 2008, we had that cushion that we were able to rely upon. And of course, we did a lot of readjustments with city staff and actually made them more efficient because we had to, some people retired and a couple people were laid off and so forth, but we cross-trained people so they could do more variety of different things. And now we're beginning to put money back into those reserves because as the economy improves, our sales tax is going up significantly, as well as property taxes, although property taxes haven't quite taken off yet as much as we'd like.
You mean sales tax revenues
yes.
are increasing,
yeah.
Right.
So I'm very comfortable that we're in a good position. I'm very proud of the fact that over the last few years, our per capita debt has gone down, not by a lot, but the trend is that for various bonds and other things that the city is indebted to pay, that those figures are going down.
So we've got a nice, stable city government right now.
Yes.
How about going forward? What do we need to do?
Well, we need to keep a steady hand on the tiller and not get overly anxious about spending money, which some government agencies like to do, and spend our money wisely for various projects. I'd like to see more public involvement in city government, city affairs, and including in the budget process as we go each year to develop our city, basically the general plan budget, and get more citizen input into that area.
Certainly something that the Blue Values Coalition believes in as well. That's marvelous. Let's talk about some of these projects that you mentioned about spending money wisely and where we go going forward. There's a couple of proposals that are out there. There are activities that take place in the American River Canyon that we want to expand on, and we also want to improve the fire safety coming out of that canyon.
That's right. Well, we've got, as a matter of fact, we're submitting another grant application to the Sierra Nevada Conservancy for almost $200,000 to help clear the area around the rim of the canyon so we can maintain this shaded fuel break. Because if any catastrophic fire comes out of the canyon, it's going to end up in Auburn. So
that's right.
By clearing away the underbrush and so forth, it makes it a lot safer. And I must say that we have had the very unusual cooperation with the Bureau of Reclamation, which basically owns most of the land in the canyon because of the Auburn Dam project. And so we have a memorandum of understanding with the federal government and the Bureau of Reclamation that we can go on their land with properly supervised by our own fire department and clear away this underbrush. So that's very important to us, and it's it's something that a lot of it is done by volunteers. Some of it is done, we contract out with various companies that have chippers and that kind of stuff to take away the waste. We're also hoping to have in the canyon 2 years ago, we signed, or we were part of, and I worked very hard on this to get a long-term, a 25-year agreement between the Bureau of Reclamation and California State Parks that covers both the Folsom State Recreation Area and the Auburn State Recreation Area. What had happened in the past, we were going year by year, and people were not willing to make long-range plans because they didn't know what was going to happen the next year. So we've got this in place now.
Yeah, that canyon is a marvelous recreational resource.
Absolutely.
That's
yeah.
available.
Yeah.
So it's both a danger and fire, but it's a marvelous, unique recreational resource.
And the thing about state parks being in the running the Auburn State Recreation Area is any funds that are developed in that area stay there,
right? Because
the state parks is basically a concessionaire running the activities in the canyon. So even the poppy sales and so forth that people buy to have access to all these facilities, even that money stays there. So
marvelous. And you've got the Forest Hill Bridge, which is one of the tallest bridges.
Well, yes, I think it's the tallest, 730 feet from the bed to the river, and we've done. It's been used for several films, and also here a couple of months ago we had a base jumping day that we were able to get to demonstrate that this would be a good likely spot to have some base jumping on a regular basis. So as you may know, there's a bridge in West Virginia that they attract 100,000 people just to come on that weekend to watch all these people just doing base jumping
bungee
off
jumping,
the bridge.
Yes.
Well, not bungee jumping.
Oh,
this is parachute.
Parachuting
yeah,
down.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Well, let's make a slight transition as we go from recreational opportunities in the American River Canyon to something that's probably a lot less pleasant for people to talk about and think about, and that's their sewer systems.
Ah, yes.
So another challenge that's facing the city of Auburn in the future is what do we do with sewerage capacity throughout the city?
Well, we're in a good spot right now because our locally owned wastewater treatment plant is in compliance. We've got all the permits and so forth. Of course, the regional water board has been pushing as much as possible, excuse me, to go for a regional wastewater treatment plant.
Right.
And so this originally started a number of years ago. It included Lake of the Pines, Colfax, Newcastle, Auburn, Lincoln, and Placer County. So what it's come down to now is Placer County has opted to join the regional plant. And of course, the city of Auburn, since we have all the permits that we need, and we when those come up for renewal, we may have to do some additional work. But what we have done is we have agreed, the city council voted to buy enlargement of the pipe so that should we decide later to join the regional plant, that will have already made an investment in that pipe, and we can join. So
you'll have the capacity for future use.
Well, our existing plant has the capacity. The problem is that as things become more and more restricted, for example, medicine and other things that are flushed down into the system, EPA and other regulatory agencies are wanting the water to be more pure than what it is now. So, but still, we meet all the requirements. But so that by shifting that to a regional plant, it may be less expensive in the long run. But you know, I remember in the 1950s. I was very young, but the people in what is now called North Auburn wanted to join the city because of the sewer system. And so the city council at the time said no, so they went and formed their own sewer district, and which resulted in this plant out in North Auburn, which is not in compliance.
Right.
And so the county has opted to go in that direction, but and they can decommission their existing plant. They still have to use the collection system, but they can decommission the plant and send everything down. Whereas, as we understand, that if we join, we may have to continue to do some kind of treatment at the Auburn plant before it's sent to the to Lincoln.
For further purification. Yeah.
So.
Absolutely. Let's talk about an issue that we had last year that was rather contentious.
Yes.
There was a proposition on the ballot in 2012 to convert Auburn to a charter city.
Yeah, a measure.
A measure, I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
yeah.
Tell us about that, because my understanding is that it was supported by most of the city council, but on the other hand, labor unions fought against it pretty strongly,
yes.
and it was defeated at the polls.
Yes.
So where do you see that? What was your perspective on that measure?
Well, my perspective, my recommendation to the city council at the time that this first came up was that we needed to get a citizens committee formed and have the citizens committee take a look at the various options and so forth and make a recommendation to the city council. The city council opted not to do that, and basically it became sort of an inside the you know, the city hall kind of developed charter to put on the ballot. And I you know, and part of the, as you suggest, the labor unions came out against it because of the prevailing wage issue, which at that time was a hot topic. And but as I understand it, the prevailing wage issue varied depending on what kind of project it was. If it was a project that was solely developed by local funds, that like the sewer, which is from sewer fees and so forth, that you could opt out from paying prevailing wage.
Correct.
But if it was something that had federal dollars or state dollars in it, you couldn't.
Right.
So anyway, and there were some other issues that were part of that as well, that allowing us to have a little more flexibility on how we did some of our business. But that was the main issue that, and it went down to defeat, which, and I don't think that that issue is going to be resurrected here in the near future at all.
Oh, okay. So besides prevailing wage, some of the other arguments that I had heard against that measure were the system our city government seems to be running smoothly, why change it?
Yes.
Was one argument.
That was one, yes.
And there was also a concern about going to a charter city, making it easier for developers or other outside agencies to come in and make charter changes at the electorate level that would benefit them.
Yeah, well, that was, yeah, because you know, if you've got a charter, somebody can get a petition up.
Right.
And not that they can still do that today.
But they have to go through the city council. And,
well,
yes.
yeah. Well, they don't have to. I mean, if they get enough signatures, they can put a measure on the ballot.
That's true.
And and have the city policy changed to whatever direction they're interested in. But it still has to go to a vote of the voters. But so, yeah, there were a number of issues that were raised during that campaign, and I guess I would say I mildly supported it, at least to put it on the ballot. And but I didn't think it was all that necessary to become a charter city.
So one other thing that's very dear and important to Blue Values Coalition is getting people engaged in our local government. Now you talked about being interested in education, and I know you have a background in political science as well. Can you talk a little bit about why it's important for people to understand local government and to get engaged in local government?
Well, it's very simple, because local government is where things start and where you have the biggest say in what the policy is going to be, where you're going to go, how money is spent, and so on and so forth. And, you know, I look around, and I've been part of the our county registrar of voters. You know, Jim McCauley's does an outreach program in the high schools in Placer County.
Marvelous program.
Which has been very successful. And I try to make the point to these students who are seniors, some of them are already eligible to vote, that this is where your money, your tax money, is being spent.
Right.
And if you don't care how it's being spent, then you know, fool me once, don't fool me twice, and all that kind of stuff. You know, it's your responsibility. And I think I mentioned to you before we went on camera that when I was teaching American government at Sierra College, one of the projects that I had my students do was they had to go to a local government agency, whether it's the water board, city council, school board, fire district, whatever it was, and look at what goes on there, and what kind of budget they have, what are the issues, and see how many other people show up at these things. Some of those meetings are just, nobody ever shows up. It's just the board and the staff, and that's it.
Yep.
And so we need more young people involved, and young people considering running for office.
Absolutely agree. That's exactly the aim of our organization. Thank you so much. Now, you're going to be running for re-election in 2014.
Yes.
Can you say a brief word about why you feel that you should be re-elected for City Council?
Well, you know, it's once you have some experience on the City Council, you understand how the system works much better than somebody new. And I'm very proud of the fact that I've been able to establish relationships with people, whether they're the county level or the state level, and even at the federal level, that makes it easier to get things accomplished. And so I'm very proud of that fact, that if I have an issue that needs to be addressed, I can, either by phone or by email, I can get a reply back reasonably fast. And because people know who I am, they know what my records are, they know what I stand for, and that I'm trying to help the residents of the city of Auburn, plus the broader area of Placer County. And so that's my basic theme for re-election. I've decided I'm going to run for one more term, and then I need to take a break, and we'll see what happens after that. But it's been, I must say, it's been most pleasing to see the various things that we've been able to accomplish. You know, part of my role in Auburn is to try to help preserve the history of the community. So the last couple of years we've gotten a number of older buildings on the National Register of Historic Places, and so the preservation of the community is important to me, having grown up there and remember before we had any stoplights. You know, oh, we had one flashing yellow light that they would put out at certain times during traffic jams. You know, but then they'd take it back in. So anyway, so it's a pleasure to work on these issues, and some of my colleagues get exasperated because frankly I have more time to spend on it than some of them, but so I'm very pleased with the record that I've been able to establish.
Well, I'm very pleased to have you with us today. I think your record of public service in the military and in the city of Auburn is outstanding. Real pleasure, and I want to thank you for being with us today.
Well, it's my pleasure. Thank you, Jack.
Thank you. And to the viewers, thank you so much for joining us tonight on Blue Values TV. Again, a production of the Blue Values Coalition. The Blue Values Coalition is dedicated to informing, educating, and engaging our neighbors in the governance of our communities. Look for us online at www.bluevaluescoalition.org. Thank you, and have a good evening.